It is my pleasure to introduce Dean Minuto. Dean and I had a chance to chat a little bit before everybody jumped on. This is going to be a really great presentation. He's an award-winning speaker. He most recently won the Vistage Speaker of the Year award.
Oh man, don't tell him that. Michael,
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm trying to set expectations, buddy.
Oh man.
He's a sales coach and a mentor, and he's helping thousands of people get to yes faster with his innovative program called YESCALATE. Dean, take it away.
Well, here's the thing, because we're going to talk about this word sales in a second. But Michael, let me just, for everyone here, let me just ask you a question. And I've asked more than 9,000 CEOs this question over the last 20 years, because that's how long I've been a professional speaker, actually 32 years. But Michael, where did you grow up? Are you a lifelong PA or Jersey guy? Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Delaware County. We live and die in the same county, buddy. You can't leave this area.
Listen, I get it. And why would you want to? You got everything you need, right, Michael? So, and it's a great area. And I moved back to the area now myself from Florida. But Michael, let's suppose, have you ever lived in Denver, by the way? Okay, so let's suppose you and I are at a business conference. We're walking down the street in Denver, and we want to take one of your top customers out to dinner. And we don't know where to go, but we do know that there's 2 restaurants up ahead of us. And one of those restaurants, Michael, is full of people. It's packed. The other one's completely empty. Which one of those 2 restaurants has the better food, Michael?
Conventional wisdom would tell you the one that's fully packed does.
It's interesting. That's the answer that 9,000 people have given me when I've answered that question. And it's interesting, the answer that you gave me is not rational. The brain uses shortcuts. Guys, before we get started, there's 2 key concepts I want you to think about today, because I've been studying the brain and how people make decisions now for more than 32 years. And we know more about the human brain than we've ever known. The first thing we know is that the brain is predictable. And we also know that the brain likes predictable. Here's the interesting thing. Anyone you need a yes from, and everyone on this phone call has someone that they want to influence and persuade. In fact, in the coming week, in the coming month, you got someone you need a yes from. And their brain uses shortcuts. There's more than 188 shortcuts. Michael, the one that you use is actually called social proof. It's a cognitive bias. Guys, if you want to look this term up after the intro, a cognitive bias, if you go to Wikipedia, and hold on, I'll blow this up so that you guys can see it big on the screen in front of you. If you guys go to Wikipedia, the codex of cognitive biases looks like this. There's more than 188 of them. Michael, the one you just used is one of these shortcuts called social proof. I refer to them, guys, as brain whispers, and I will summarize them for you today as only 5. And if you have, you're only going to need 2 sheets of paper today. And the first sheet of paper, I'd have you write down across the top the word smart. Here's a question I'm going to start with. What if there was a button you and your team could push to get to yes faster in an honest and ethical way with anyone? And there is. And the button is made up of 5 shortcuts. By the way, SMART is a model. It's an acronym. It stands for safe, motion, ask, relate, and trust. And when we're done with today's talk, you guys are going to have 21 specific bullet points underneath these 5 words. Michael, the bullet point I'm going to give you right now that you just used to determine which one of those restaurants was better is called evidence. Human beings look for evidence of what others have already chosen. Now think about this, guys. The question that I asked Michael is which one of those restaurants has the better food? Let me pick on Mohit. Mohit, take yourself off mute for a second. Mohit, if you and I were walking down that street, what's the only rational answer you can give me to which one of those 2 restaurants has the better food?
I would probably go on the internet to Google Maps and see what reviews people are leaving.
Yes, because the only rational answer you can give me is I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know until we either eat at both or hear from others that have eaten at both. Here's what I want you to know, guys. Your customers will not say, I don't know, if they can see evidence of what others like them have already chosen. You know, that's what here was a genius back in the 1970s. Anyone ever see this McDonald's sign that says billions and billions served? Now, Brittany, you got that beautiful baby in front of you. What that beautiful baby is never going to know is what Michael and I saw when we first saw that sign. Brady, what did that sign first say when you saw it in Delaware? What did Ray Kroc have on that sign? How many numbers?
1 million served, I believe.
Brady, who are you kidding? Who are you kidding? When you and I were kids, it said 3 served, and you and I had the first 2. Guys, I want you to think about this. Guys, Ray Kroc was a genius. And in the 1970s, Ray Kroc started putting the numbers on the McDonald's sign. At first, Michael is right. It said 1 million served when I was about in the 2nd or 3rd grade. Then it said 5 million, then 10 million, then 100 million. The biggest number I've seen on the McDonald's sign, folks, is over 150 billion served. That's at the McDonald's outside of Chicagoland at McDonald's headquarters. Bernard Williams, can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up, man. Give me a thumbs up. Take yourself off mute. Bernard, what was Ray Kroc saying with that sign to travelers in towns they've never been in? What do you think? What was he saying with that sign?
That you can trust it because other people have trusted it.
Yes, and brain scientists, Bernard, have studied the sign. Guess what the sign says? If we're on the road with our kids in Dallas or Denver, I took my kid to Amsterdam 2 summers ago when she was 19 to see her favorite musician, Jack White. There's a McDonald's in Amsterdam. The sign says 2 things. You got it? You ready, guys? It ain't great, but it probably won't kill you today. Guys, you know what the sign says? I want you to write this phrase down. You ready? Do you know what your customers want from you now more than ever? 2 words. Are you ready? No surprises. Joseph, you're nodding. No surprises. Joseph, take yourself off mute. Where are you right now, Joseph?
I'm in my office.
Yeah, but physically, what town are you in, wise guy?
I'm in Exton, Pennsylvania.
I am too. I'm in Exton, PA. Unbelievable. We're gonna have to connect after this. But if we go to a McDonald's in Denver, Joseph, if we go to a McDonald's in Amsterdam with our kids, will it be the best meal we can get in any of those cities? Yes or no?
No, it's exactly what I expect, period, though.
You get a Big Mac. Guys, write down 1 word. Consistency. That's what your customers want from you. And you know how you guys can show people the same thing that McDonald's sign shows? Well, let me give you this example right now. So I picked on Bernard. Sean Tigani, am I saying the name right, Sean? Yeah, take yourself off mute, brother. Come on here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you got it, Dino.
You walk into a bar, Sean, and a bartender has put out a cup and put her own money in it. Why? Why has she seeded the tip cup?
Because she wants, me to see that other people are tipping or that there's money in it and she expects it.
Guys, I'd like you to consider writing this question down. What is my company's version of a tip cup? What is my company's version of a tip cup? And it's 2 words. Are you ready? Client testimonials. That's what the McDonald's sign is. Nothing but a huge testimonial. Nothing but a way of saying, here is evidence of what other people before you have chosen. So we know that there's shortcuts. And we know that if we know what these shortcuts are, we can actually help people say yes to us faster in an honest and ethical way. And guys, I'm going to share with you a superpower, literally a superpower today. And the superpower today is these 5 cards. So let me give you a real quick bullet point to write down underneath each of these cards. But before we do that, on the top of this sheet of paper, I would like you to write down the name of the person you need a yes from. In the coming week, there may be a customer you're looking to influence. It might be a vendor you're trying to renegotiate a deal with, a supply deal. It might be someone on your team, but there's someone you need to persuade. And I wake up every day and say, thank you. There's someone who needs to hear me today. because I'm going to share with you some shortcuts you can use immediately to get to that yes faster. So write their name up on the, who here, I won't put you all on the spot because there's too many of you, just to show of hands. Who here has written down someone's name? Who here has written down someone's name? Paul Eisenberg, can I call on you for a second? Is that cool?
Yep.
Paul, take
go ahead.
yourself off mute. Paul, whose name did you write down?
A donor named Bill.
Bill, well, is this an important yes to you?
Yes.
Well, EO recognized that. So they asked me, Paul, to bring Bill into today's session. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to welcome Bill in here. Mike, get ready. I don't know if you were prepared for Bill, but guys, here's Bill. Say hello to Bill. Today, we're going to open up Bill's brain and we're going to talk about how he makes decisions. Okay, Paul?
Yep.
Now, Paul, first question. Is Bill related to you?
No.
Okay, this is important. Folks, just nod your heads yes or no. Will Bill go to sleep tonight praying for Paul's children? Yes or no? No, Paul. Whose children is Bill going to be praying for?
His own.
What you need to remember is this. I'm going to summarize brain science for you now in 3 words before we get into the SMART model. 3 ancient Greek words that I'd like you to consider writing down. The 3 ancient Greek words are alpha, delta. I'll put them up here on the board. Hold on one second. Alpha, delta, and believe it or not, video. First thing we know is the brain has one goal in any situation: its own survival. The first thing that anyone is thinking about in any situation is themselves or their children. They're listening to the radio station, WIIFM. Paul, what's that stand for? WIIFM. What's in it for me? Okay, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Everyone's brain is tuned into that radio station. So let me ask you guys a question. The military uses a shortcut. It's called BLUF. It stands for bottom line up front. Before you go into this meeting, are you prepared to tell this person the outcome, what's in it for them? And can you do it in the first 30 seconds of your interaction with them?
I think so.
Great. And we're gonna go deeper on this. And thank you, Paul. It was more of a rhetorical question, but I'm super excited that you're with me. Let's go back to Bill. So Bill is focused on himself. First goal is keeping himself alive. Let me tell you the second goal, Paul. To use as little energy as possible to achieve the first goal. Let me say that again. His brain's first goal is his or her survival, to keep them alive. The brain's second goal is to use as little energy as possible to achieve the first goal. So goal number 1, to keep you alive. And folks, scientists tell us that people use shortcuts to keep them alive. Those shortcuts are cognitive biases. So back to the example with Michael. Michael, the question I asked is which one of those 2 restaurants in Denver has the better food? That's not actually the question you answered. The question you answered is which one of those restaurants looks less risky? Folks, I want you to understand this. If you want to increase the potential of getting a yes, you can increase by 4 to 5 times by identifying what's at risk for people and eliminating their risk. The first question anyone is going to ask in any situation is, am I safe in making this decision? So number 1, the brain's first goal is to keep you alive. The brain's second goal, guys, to use as little energy as possible to achieve the first goal. And let's talk about the reason for this. So who else? Well, everyone's now taken themselves. They're not showing me, so I can't see who to pick on, Michael. They've learned. Put a picture up so Dean can't, but Richard is still there. Brittany is smiling. She's just daring me. Pick on me, Dino, pick on me. Richard O'Neill, can I pick on you for a second?
Sure.
So what's the name you wrote down? Did you think of a person you need a yes from?
I didn't actually. Sorry.
Okay. Well, anyone, including ourselves, Anyone we want to influence, Michael or Richard, we're focused on ourselves. And the best way for us to stay alive is to pay attention to any change in the environment. And the ancient Greeks had a word they used to describe change, guys. It's the second word that I put up here on the board for you. The word is delta. The brain looks for any delta in the environment, any difference, any change. So Michael, where physically, or Richard O'Neill, where physically are you today?
I'm in Chad's Ford. Yeah.
You're in Chad's Ford, so you're here in PA also. So suppose right now you're sitting there in your home office or your work office. Everything is cool, status quo. All of a sudden, there's massive delta. The front door of your office swings open. The brain's first response to any change in the environment, and guys, I'm going to have you consider writing down 3 Ds here. D means danger. Delta means difference, and difference means danger. Remember, the brain's first job is to keep you alive. So the way to bet is to assume that any change is dangerous. And danger triggers decisions. Richard, someone breaks into your house right now or breaks into my house. I got some decisions to make pretty quickly, right? What would be an example of a decision that I have to make?
Fight or flight.
Those are the first 2. In fact, there's 5 F's, guys. The first 2, am I going to take this person on? Can I take them? Second, do I have time to run away? But I'll tell you the decision that is more common. The decision that's more common is to freeze. To do nothing. Think about what happened when the lockdown happened. People went into fight, flight, freeze. There's also 2 other F's. The 2 other F's are, well, let me do it this way. Does anyone remember the quote from Champ Mike Tyson? When Tyson was asked by the interviewer, Champ, do you know the contender has a plan to beat you? Michael, do you know it?
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
So that's now Tyson's a philosopher, and Michael, I had a chance to meet Tyson. He actually said 3 things in that quote. Everyone remembers the first thing, Michael. He said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's when they forget the basics. He said, that's why I'm always going to win. I don't forget the basics. Guess what this year was for most of us and most of our customers? It was massive change. It was massive delta. And it felt for many of us like a punch in the mouth. And many of us, is it Marcia or Marcia? I want to be respectful.
Thanks, it's Marcia.
Thank you, Marcia. It felt like a punch in the mouth, didn't it?
Sure did.
and when people get punched in the mouth, guess what, guys? They have 5 potential responses: to fight someone back, to run away, to freeze and potentially do nothing, to forget the basics. You know what else happens to many people? They get frustrated because they don't know what to do when they get punched in the mouth. They're torn about what to do. Guys, you need to understand, if you represent change to that person whose name you wrote down, you're going to have to somehow shortcut these decisions. Here, I'll give you an easy example. How many of you have sales reps that work for you? How many of you have sales reps that work for you? Just to show of hands. Marcia, you got sales reps that work for you? I want to give you an example of this alpha, delta, what happens. So right now, before we go any farther, those of you who have sales reps, I want you to send them all a text message. Marcia, here's what I want you to send them. I'm in my EO meeting now, and the speaker is going to help me frame a new compensation plan for all of you. I will announce it to you after 5 p.m. today. No, don't do that.
I was going to say, no.
Yeah, what's going to happen? Marcia, where are their brains going to go?
Not on their work today, that's for sure. So
because they're going to feel at risk. And any change, Andy Tupler, you were nodding your head. If we tell a sales rep we're changing their comp plan, what's their first assumption?
They're going to think it's going negative. It's going the wrong direction.
Guys, I want you to always start, what's at risk and how do I make them feel safe? How do I eliminate their risk? Okay. And we're going to come back to this in a second. Let me just give you the third shortcut. And I put it up here in terms of the words video, and I'm going to come back to it. Before I do that, who wrote down the name of someone they need a yes from? Who actually wrote down a name? Who's got one? Joseph, come on back on with me. What's the name? Take yourself off mute, bro.
Just did. I changed the name. It's one of my forum mates.
Okay. Well, what's the name? Give me the name.
Everybody here will know it. So yeah,
Make up a name. Make up a name, Joseph. What are you, a new kid at this? Give me a name.
Come on, you know. So what is it? Hold on. It's Jake.
Jake. Say hi to Jake.
Hi,
Guess
Jake.
what? There's only 5 ways to get information into Jake's brain, Joseph. Guys, pay attention. This may be the most important thing I share with you. The brain only accepts information from 5 outside sources. Joseph, take a look at Jake. What are the 5 sources, the 5 channels by which information gets into Jake's brain? What are they, Joseph?
Sight,
Eyes,
smell, yeah,
nose,
ears, oral, right? Kinesthetic, and
that's it. The 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and touch. Here's what you guys need to understand. From a decision-making perspective, of the 5, 4 are basically irrelevant. One of the 5 senses is the king. 90% of all brain activity is the brain processing visual stimuli. Folks, information gets to people's brains 30 times faster through their eyes than through their ears. And the ancients knew this. They had a verb. Video is an ancient Latin verb that means 2 things. It's the verb to see, but it's also the verb to understand. Human beings have always equated seeing with understanding. Bernard Williams, have you ever said to someone, when someone's asked you to do something, have you ever said to someone, oh, I see what you want? Have you ever said that?
Yes.
When we say, I see what you want, what were we really saying?
I understand what you want.
Guys, here's the biggest tip I can give you today. You ready? That person you want a yes from, never say something to them if you can show it. Okay? There's 3 ways for you guys to make any message more visual. 3 ways. Number 1, take your words and turn them into pictures. Number 2, take your pictures and turn them into videos. The brain understands videos faster than static pictures because there's motion, and any motion the brain perceives as potential danger, which is why people click on videos more than they click on pictures. But the most powerful visual is the thing itself. Don't talk about a thing if you can bring them to the thing and show it to them. Is this all making sense? Yes? No? Is this all making sense? I see some of you nodding your head. Guys, I want you to know all of this, I'm going to consolidate for you before we're done in the next hour under these 5 words, which are SMART. So let me give you a couple of bullet points right now underneath each of these. And then I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to ask you guys, what do you take from this story? I'm a student of influence and persuasion. And, before we go any farther, let me just show you guys the one book I'm going to suggest you read. If you haven't read it yet, Dr. Robert Cialdini wrote this book 30 years ago. Just this year, he's coming out with a massive revision. This is the most important book ever written on decision-making. Cialdini wrote it when he was in the Tom Peters chair at Stanford. It became the basis of the negotiation program at Stanford. And I worked with Dr. Cialdini on and off for a decade. What I wanted to do was take these concepts and create tools that anyone can use. So what I've done, because it didn't exist and I wanted it, so I went out and built it. I went out and create tools to help us apply this science. So the word safe, I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points right now to consider under each one. Underneath the S for safe, the first question you should always be asking is, what is at risk for that person? What is at risk and how can I eliminate their risk? Mohit, I'm going to give you an example that I've been given to CEOs since 2007. 2007, I started delivering my program to CEO groups, and I deliver it more than 100 times a year. So that's a lot of presentations. In 2007, Mohit, let's go back. That summer, Americans stopped buying cars. One company came out with a marketing campaign. I've been talking about it since 2007 because I knew how successful it was going to be. It's now seen as the most successful marketing campaign in the history of selling cars. Mohit, one company came out with a message and it said these two things. If you lose your job, we'll make your payments for you. That's the Hyundai Assurance Program, Mohit. It was number 2 of 3. They ran it for 2.5 years, sold 1.5 million units. Mohit, does that campaign have anything to do with cars? What does it have to do with?
Mitigating the risk. You know, if I'm in the market to buy a car and my economic future is uncertain, I may not buy a car.
What can you do, folks, to lower people's risk? Mohit, they ran the program for 2.5 years, 1.5 million units. They had to make less than 350 payments. Did every American lose their job? Yes or no? Clearly not. But when people feel threatened, they freeze. What can you do to eliminate their risk? So there are loss framing tools, and I'll give you some of them before we're done here today. One of the most important tools I can give you to lower risk will also help you get someone in motion. So Michael, finish this sentence. Brady, finish this sentence from Sir Isaac Newton, an old friend of ours back in high school. Michael, a thing in motion will tend to?
Stay in motion.
So here's how you get people in motion, and here's how you also lower their risk. That person whose name you wrote down, are you asking for a large commitment? If so, break it up into a series of smaller commitments and get them started with the first one. A thing in motion will tend to stay in motion. The big tip I can give you there is identify what they're going to have to do and break it up. Small commitments are less risky for people than large commitments. A stands for ask, and I'll just let you know, asking is about creating context, creating framing. And the most important little tip here is that the person asking the questions is in control of the conversation and sets the context for that conversation. Every single one of you, and you know what it is. Guys, I've coached in, well, just about any industry you can imagine. And I've come up with tools that you can use in any industry. The first book I wrote is called The One-Page Sales Coach, and it's a tool for all of you. And I'm just going to tell you this. You all have a question that you know your customer is going to ask. And if you don't answer it before they ask it, it becomes an objection, and then it's too late. How many of you have heard this phrase, this term, handling objections? Just a show of hands. How many of you have heard handling objections? Okay, guess what the best way is to handle an objection? To answer it before it becomes an objection. Handling objections is bad. It doesn't work because they've already made a commitment to something and now they feel pressure to prove themselves right. What are the questions you know customers are going to ask? And can you answer them before they get asked? By the way, there's a book. You guys may know the author. This book is so good, it pissed me off, Michael. Every page of this book, I got angrier the more I read it. The book is called They Ask and You Answer. And the author's name is Marcus. Is it Sheridan Mohit? You're nodding. Marcus, what's Marcus's last
Marcus
name?
Sheridan.
The
Marcus
book
Sheridan.
is so good, it pissed me off because I said, I should have written this book. Guys, I'm telling you, get that book too. He gives you a process to identify those questions. Okay? This is the sleeper right here, guys, the relate card. I will tell you, we are far more likely to say yes to someone we relate to than someone we don't relate to. I'm going to give you the 3 fastest ways, according to brain science, for us to develop a relationship with people. The first is the easiest, and they're in increasing power. First, pay a compliment. When you pay someone a compliment, the part of the brain that makes decisions releases a chemical called dopamine. Does anyone know what dopamine does in the human brain? Just jump on. Anyone know what dopamine does? Who's got it?
Makes you feel
Makes you
good.
happy.
Yeah, Joseph. You know what dopamine does in the human brain? The same thing that heroin used to do in Keith Richards' brain. Yeah, that's why they call heroin dope. Why they call heroin addicts dope addicts. Hey guys, I got a secret for you. You could be natural drug dealers just by paying people honest compliments. Now I got a serious question for you as business owners and entrepreneurs. Are you doing it enough with your team, with your customers, with your family? Or sadly, are you walking around your business like a home inspector? A home inspector. Michael, what's a home inspector's job? To find what?
Or shit that's wrong with the house.
Yeah, please. Can we do that again, boss? Can you go on another call with me tomorrow and tell me all the crap you thought I did wrong? Thank you so much, boss. I love that. Hey guys, let me challenge you. I don't think it's creative to tell someone what they're doing wrong. You know what would be creative? Can you tell me what your top performers do well? Can you start identifying and complimenting those best practices? I had a guy walk up to me, Michael. I did a CEO event in Dallas one year, 400 people. Michael, the guy walks up to me on the break. I don't know this guy. And he goes, Dino, can I give you a little feedback? And I said, no. And he goes, well, that's fine, but your fly is still open. Whoop. Guess what? That was good feedback. But what normally when people want to give me feedback, what's my first inclination? That they're going to tell me what, Michael?
Something negative that you've said or done.
Guys, the way you earn the right to give feedback, make some deposits. Covey talked about it in his book. A compliment is a deposit you make in another human being's emotional bank account. Second C, find something in common. We like people who are like us. This is personal, guys. Influence and decision-making is personal. You're going to need to open up, tell some personal stories, share, so that people can find things in common with you. The last is the most powerful, especially with what's going on today. It's collaboration. Collaboration. When people are at risk, they want to hear this phrase. You ready? We got your back. Cialdini is focusing now on a new addition to his research. He's saying the most powerful concept is the concept of unity, as expressed, as manifest in 3 words: we, us, and our. Think about that person whose name you wrote down. How are you manifesting collaboration and unity with them? Underneath trust, I gave you guys already. What does the E stand for under trust? Who's got it? Who wrote it down?
Evidence.
Evidence.
Thank you, Jennifer. Human beings look for evidence, but let me give you the 2 other bullet points, and it spells my daughter's name. Fastest way for people to see the shortcuts are for them to see your diplomas. It's not just diplomas, guys. It's diplomas, it's uniforms, and it's titles. You look up on the wall, Jennifer, you see Harvard on the wall when you walk into a doctor's office. And what are you thinking?
I'm thinking he's went to a very rigorous school and he's smart.
He has done the work. That's a shortcut. Guys, a diploma or a uniform tells people very quickly you've done the work so that their brain doesn't have to do the work. You need to be showing people these things, your diplomas. So I was joking when Michael told you Vistage Speaker of the Year, I was glad he shared that with you. I was joking about that. By the way, largest speakers bureau in the world, 3,000 speakers, 26,000 members. This talk was given the Vistage Speaker of the Year award because 9,000 members that I've spoken to have said they have found things immediately applicable that they could use. So before I tell you a story, I want to put something up here on the board behind me and ask you guys what you think about this statistic from the US Department of Labor, that only 1 in 9 Americans are in sales. What do you guys think about that number?
False.
It's wrong.
It's wrong? Mohit, what do you think the right number is?
I would say 9 out of 10 sell. Everybody needs to sell
Here's the
something.
problem though. Here's the problem. If you tell the people on your team who aren't in sales that they're in sales, they're going to threaten to quit. Okay? And I'm going to show you why right now. What I'm showing you now is no joke. Look up the dictionary definition of the word sell. Okay? A deliberate hoax. Guess what? It gets worse from there if you look up the full definition. It means to betray, sold their lives, deliver into slavery, sold their votes, sell a child. Cheat, it means cheat. Guys, what's the perception that human beings have about selling? What's the paradigm that most people have? It's what? It's negative, it's manipulative. And this new generation of people, if we don't help them understand that it's about influence and persuasion, that it's about making a difference, they will not do the things that are necessary to help your customers say yes to them. So the question that I always ask is, what if there was a button that you could teach your team to use to help them build relationships that matter? If you could create a space with them to help them do that. All right. So I've shared with you this SMART outline, and as you guys are looking at your notes of what you've taken so far, I'd like you guys to, in this next story that I'm going to tell, I'd like you guys to pay attention to which of these points that we've talked about is coming through in the story. So remember, SMART stands for safe, motion, ask, relate, and trust. Now, I have something to share with you guys that you would not know if I didn't tell you, which is that I started going blind when I was 17. When I was 17, I had massive retinal detachments in my left eye. It took surgeons 2 or 3 surgeries that year to save my vision. When I was 29 years old, both of my eyes came apart. I was actually blind for 6 months. Michael, if we didn't live in the Philadelphia area, I would have had a much worse outcome. But because of the eye surgeons, Will's Eye Institute, the Shea Eye Institute, because of the eye surgeons we have here in Philadelphia, doctors saved my vision when I was 29. In fact, I have a dear friend that lives in Chadsport. He's my primary eye surgeon. His name is Bruce Sarin. The only bar mitzvahs I've ever been to are Bruce's kids. I keep 2 bottles of my favorite bourbon at Bruce's house. He was the first person who visited me when I moved back to Chester County. Now, I tell you this story because I lied to Bruce for 2 years. I'm going to tell you a story about 2 doctors that I interacted with to get my vision changed. And what you need to know is that 4 years ago, I had lost 80% of the vision in my left eye, and I was rapidly losing vision in my right eye. I had lost so much vision in my eyes that I was pretty sure that Bruce was going to take away my driver's license. So I had been lying to him for 2 years. And Michael, you might say, how do you do that? Well, what I realized is surgeons, just like the rest of us, use patterns. They have habits. And I realized that when Bruce put up his eye charts, he always put them up in the same order. And I knew he was going to take my driver's license from me, Michael. So I memorized his eye charts. The first eye chart that he puts up spells the word Egnus, E-G-N-U-S. The second one spells the word Fuzzbud, F-Z-B-U-D. And I recognized if I could get to Fuzzbud, he was going to let me keep driving. So I fooled him for 2 years. The problem is 4 years ago, guys, because of my daughter, Bruce caught me. Now, Devin is 22 now. So 4 years ago, she would have been what, 17, 18, something like that. How many of you guys have a teenager or how many of you have a Generation Z kid? All right, just a show of hands. Andy, Marcia, Paul, let me tell you one thing you already know. They're better people than us, okay? These are good people. And Devin was off school the day of my eye exam that year. She said, Daddy, what you got going on today? I said, I got an appointment with Bruce. She said, I love Dr. Saren. Can I come? I said, absolutely. And guys, I made a mistake. On the ride to Dr. Saren's office, I told her I was cheating on the eye exam. Daddy, not good. I said, Birdie, she said, because I call her Birdie. She says, Daddy, you can't lie to Bruce. You can't lie to your eye doctor. And then she says, but how are you doing it? So I told her the secret, Agnes and Fuzzbud. And we get in there and Bruce gives her a big hug and he puts me up on the chair and he says, let's see how you're doing, buddy. And he puts the first chart on the board. Bernard, Academy Award. I'm reading this thing, man. I go E-G-N-U-S, E-G-N-U-S. And Birdie goes, yeah, nice job, Agnes. And Dr. Saren, the next one says Fuzzbud. What? And Bruce goes, Agnes. And he clicks the button. He says, Fuzzbud. He goes, really, smart guy. He goes, wait here. And he left the office and he came back with a disc, which he put in, which randomized all the letters. He said, let's see how you do now, smart guy. Guys, I couldn't read the big E. And I looked at Devin and I said, Birdie, I'm sorry. And Bruce said, man, why are you apologizing to your kid? I said, dude, my dad never cried at a doctor's appointment. At this point, I was actually crying. I said, your dad ever cry at a doctor's appointment? He said, Dino, that's not the point. Our dads have never gone through the number of eye surgeries you've gone through. And at that point, I had gone through already about 35 invasive eye surgeries. He said, I know you. I said, you're damn right. I don't want to do this anymore. He says, you got to chill out. The glaucoma is taking your vision. The cataracts are taking your vision, but there's all new stuff out there. And you got to know this, Devin is right. You shouldn't be lying about this because it is dangerous for you to keep driving. Let's send you to some experts and see what is available now for you. So he sends me, guys, if you guys are paying attention, he sends me to doctor number one. I'm going to put this up on the board. What I'd like you to do is put a triangle someplace if you're keeping track. Triangle standing for Delta. What is the difference, as I tell you this story, between the way doctor one and doctor number two interacted with me? Okay, so let's go back to the story. I'm in doctor number one's office. I'm sitting there by myself. Doctor number one walks in. He's got an open shirt like this. He's got a cup of coffee in his hand and he looks in my eyes. Brittany, he looks in my eyes and he goes, you got green eyes. I go, that's right. He goes, not for long. He said, because the drops I'm going to give you for the glaucoma, they're called Travitan Z. They're going to burn your green eyes. Probably going to turn your green eyes brown. He said, is that a problem? And Brittany, I said, well, not if there's another drop. He goes, there's another drop. And he pointed at my chest. He pointed at my chest. Jennifer, he points at my chest. I go, what's going on? He goes, the other drop is going to mess with your blood pressure. If you're into exercise, by the way, if you're a runner, those days are done because this other drop is going to mess with your blood. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. He said, which one of those two do you want? I said, neither. He said, I'm telling you. I said, I'm telling you, you're not burning my eyes and you're not messing with my heart today. Not until I get more information. He says, what do you think? You're going to Google this? I said, yeah, you're damn right. I'm going to Google it. But that's the second thing I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do is get the hell out of here. So guys, I basically fired him. I reached out to an organization called HealthNet, which is a concierge service for CEOs. It's affiliated with the Cleveland Clinic. HealthNet ranked all the doctors in America for the condition I have. Guys, the number one doctor in America for the condition I have is named Dr. Michael Pro, and he's at the Wills Eye Institute. So if you guys are following along, this is doctor number two. It took me 2 months to get an appointment with doctor number two, but I want to show you what my girlfriend Dawn and I saw hanging as a banner in the corner at Wills Eye Institute as we got off the elevator. We got off the elevator and we saw this banner. Wills Eye, America's first, world's best. U.S. News and World Report, number one ranked ophthalmology department in America. It's good to be the best. And Dawn and I, well, we didn't say a word. We just looked at each other. We just looked at each other and nodded. And we went into the exam room. Guys, there was already a surgeon waiting for us in the exam room. Something very different about how Will's Eye handles your appointments. They never have you wait alone. So there was a surgeon. She introduced herself to us. She told us she was Dr. Michael Pro's surgical partner and that they had been on the same team together since medical school, since they were both at Harvard together. She said, Dean, Mike is meeting with the team right now, and they're going through your file. He will be in shortly. Michael Pro walks in, guys. Remember, this is doctor number 2, and I'm asking you, what jumps out that's different in these two stories? Michael Pro walks in, he's got a big, thick file. I'll just use my book as an example. It's got my name on the back of it, this file. He points to my name, and he points at his partner, and she points at me. And he says, Dean Minuto. He says, you see this? This is the workup the team and I did on you before you got here. He says, Dean, you need to know 2 things before we get started. Thing number 1, you're going blind. Thing number 2, you are never going to go blind as long as we're here. We got everything you're going to need, Dean, to save your vision. And I'm going to walk you through the details. He says, before I do that, let me introduce myself to you. And he introduces himself to my girlfriend. He says, what's your name? She says, Dawn. He says, Dawn, I'm so glad to see you here. It is so important that patients have an advocate with them. So you're part of the team. Dawn, if you have any questions of my team, you're now part of our team. Let us know. Okay. Dawn says yes. He says, okay, Dino, let's go through this. He says, thing number 1 we're going to start with is glaucoma. Has anyone told you what glaucoma is? I said, no, doc, they haven't. He said, well, let me tell you a little secret. That's because we don't know what it is. Glaucoma is a catch-all phrase indicating pressure in the eye. Now, we know that a healthy pressure on the scale we use is around 10 to 13. And you start going blind when the pressure in your eyes goes above 20. According to the workup, Dean, the pressure today in your left eye is 21. The pressure in your right eye is 23. That means that this pressure is stealing your vision. He says, Dean, we got a drop. It's a miracle drop. It's called Travitan Z. It's going to lower the pressure in your eyes by half in about the next 7 to 10 days. It's got a couple of side effects, and I want to make sure you and Dawn know what they are, and I'll go through them in a minute. But what you need to know, Dean, it's the perfect drop for what's going on. Number 2, cataracts. Do you know what cataracts are? I said, yeah. He goes, let me tell you the good news and the bad news, buddy. Bad news, at 46 years old, 47 years old, you got the cataracts of about a 200-year-old man. Let me tell you the good news. You now qualify for cataract surgery at Will's Eye with the #1 cataract surgeon in the world. Dr. Lichtenstein has a lens and he has a laser that didn't even exist a few years ago. He's used it on more people than any other surgeon. Dean, he's going to give you your vision back. You're going to have better vision than probably when you were a kid. He says, okay, let me tell you about what's going on with the side effects with Travitan Z. He says, number 1, he said, less than 5% of the cases, it will slightly deepen the color of your eyes. He said, Dean, you'll go from a green to a slightly darker green. And then he says this, Brittany, he looks at my girlfriend, he says, Dawn, let me tell you the other side effect. It's going to make Dean's eyelashes longer and thicker. Dawn says, put him on the drops, put him on the drops. Guys, I went on the drops that day in the office. Same drops the other doctor had recommended 2 months before. Was their message framed differently to me? Yes or no? Yes? You got 2 minutes on your own. I'm going to pull up a whiteboard. I would like you right now on that sheet of paper, I'd like you to write out how many differences you heard between Dr. and Dr. 2. I'm a student of this. All I look at is what does one company, what does one person do to get a yes, while in the same situation, the same offer, someone else makes it harder and screws it up. What you do matters. There are best practices around this stuff. I think you guys would agree if you met either of these 2 doctors at a conference and asked, what do you do? Neither of them would say, I'm in sales. Are we in agreement on that? Yes or no? But would you also agree that what they do makes a difference and that knowing how to influence people and that doctor number 2 made it easier for me to say yes? Would you guys all agree with that? Guys, here's what I want you to know. Easy and safe always win when it comes to decision making. Before we get off the phone, I'll show you a simple tool you can use. I call the brain's GPS to make sure you're focusing on keeping the people you want to influence safe and making things easy for them. Go ahead, make a list. What jumped out at you? Differences between the two doctors, and put a star next to that thing that you believe was the biggest difference between the two doctors. Take your time. Let me give you another 30 seconds here. Maybe at the top of this sheet of paper, you'll write the name of the person you want to influence, and you think about how can you apply some of these best practices to that person. All right, just show of hands. Who wants to start? Who's got a big one they want to share with me? Put a hand up. Come on, who hasn't played with me yet? Go ahead, Marcia, jump on, take yourself off mute. And let me go back to the whiteboard here, Marcia. What you got? Difference between Dr. 1 and Dr. 2. What jumped out at you?
Dr. 1 put the fear of God in you and didn't calm you down, didn't get to know you as a person, and was just doing his business and checking off the list.
Now hold on 1 second, because what you're saying is hugely important. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to pull on a thread. You said Dr. number 1 put the fear of God in me because he talked about side effects and negative outcomes. But wouldn't you agree that Dr. 2, as soon as he walked in the room, the first thing he said was the thing he knew I was most fearful of? Wouldn't you agree with that? Marcia, let me ask you a question. How long before Dr. number 2 looked at me and said, "You're going blind"? How long has Dino known he's been going blind?
Before you were even told.
Since that first day when I was 17, when I got that flash, when my left eye came apart. I have woke up every morning knowing there was a potential for me to go blind, and I've gone to sleep every night praying that God would not let that happen the next day. Guys, I want you to take the value judgment out of this. And I want you to always ask yourself, what's at risk? Not good or bad. What's at risk? The biggest thing that was at risk for me was my vision. Doctor number 2, within 30 seconds, said, you need to know 2 things. The first is you're going blind. And then what did he immediately say, Marcia?
That you basically had come to the place that we're going to fix it for you. Do the best we can to fix it.
What's in it for me? Guys, I want you to consider writing this word down. Doctor number 2 told me the outcome. Within the first 30 seconds of my interaction, told me the outcome. Who else has got something? Marcia, thank you. Who else? Show it. Come on, put a hand up. Who wants to jump on? Who wrote down something? Difference between Dr. 1 and Dr. 2. Jennifer, thank you. Come on back in. Jennifer, what you got? Difference between Dr. 1 and Dr. 2.
The related to trust, that the evidence that he had done the work and done the hard work was right there as soon as you walked off the elevator. It made
okay, this is a third-party endorsement, which is different than the McDonald's sign. The McDonald's sign says billions and billions. Third party says one trusted source has given their stamp of approval. It's a title, okay? Like Vistage Speaker of the Year. It's a title, it's a shortcut for everyone else to use. Now here's the challenge. Will's Eye Institute does something that many of you don't do. They show that title as soon as you get off the elevator. And many organizations, Jennifer, are reluctant. Many individuals are reluctant because they don't want people to see them as what? Take yourself off mute.
They don't want those arrogant or full of themselves.
And that's what we thought, right, Jennifer? Dawn and I got off the elevator and we looked at each other. We saw that sign and we thought, boy, he's awful full of himself. Let's see how good he really is. That's not what we said. What was that look that we gave each other? What did we say to each other when we saw that sign?
We're in the right place.
Guys, that's what you want all your customers to think. That's what you want. And you can be sending that message without you saying it. Guys, I just want you to think about something. in the 1950s, and I've been a sales trainer my whole life, guys. I've trained north of 60,000 salespeople in mortgage businesses, in consulting businesses, in product sales, but anything you can think of. And here's what J. Douglas Edwards said in the 1950s. He trained Zig Ziglar. He trained Tommy Hopkins. He said, if you say it, your customers doubt it. But if others have said it about you, it's true. Think about this. What titles have you received? What awards have you received? And are you showing them to people early in the process? All right, who else has got one? We're going to go to number 3. Show a hand. Paul, your hand came up first, and then Jeff, we'll let you go next. Paul, jump in. Paul
He
Eisenberg.
included your girlfriend and formed collaboration and made her part of the team.
Okay, so really important, guys. Human beings feel safer. We're tribal. We're tribal. We feel safer when we are not alone. So the first thing is that I felt at risk. So I brought my team the second time. And the important thing for you to remember is Will's Eye always approaches stuff as a team. Are you guys doing the same? 2 sides of this. Number 1, that person whose name you wrote down. Do you know who their team is? And are you including them in your process? Number 2, have you shown them that you are not alone? Who else is on your team to support this effort? We feel safer when we have team with us. Jeff, is it Shavkin?
Yeah, Chavkin. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, honestly, but just from a little bit different take in that he doesn't know exactly what your relationship is with your girlfriend, but knows that you brought her with you as sort of a somebody else to evaluate. So if he can win her over, so he complimented her, collaborated with her right away, knowing she may have influence on your decision making.
Excellent, excellent point, guys. When it comes to influence, the little things are the big things. Pay people compliments. By the way, every single one of you can find a way to do this in your sales processes, in your engagement, in your project management processes. You know, one of my early clients was a huge bank up in Canada, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. I did the training in all of their call centers. One of their top reps, I observed this early on, in their support area where people were calling in with problems. Here's how she'd start every phone call. You ready, guys? My name is Sandy, and you have called the right place. I want to congratulate you on the decision to call this technical support number. Wow, isn't that different? She was saying, look, you got a problem and you made the smart decision to pick up your hand and call because I can fix it for you. She was paying people a compliment at the beginning of the process. Jeff Shavkin, well done. All right, show of hands. Who else has got something? Difference between the 2 doctors. Who else has got something that hasn't come on the phone with me yet? All right. If no one's willing to come on, I'm going to. All right, Sean. Is it Tigani, Sean?
Yeah, Sean Tigani.
Thank you, Sean. What you got? Difference between the 2 doctors.
Yeah, I mean, just something small in their wording, right? Doctor 1 said it drops are going to change your eye color. The other doctor, once he addressed the benefits, said that it was going to deepen your eye color. So he didn't use the word change.
Both of them said something was going to change. Doctor number 1 said, these drops are going to burn your eyes. Doctor number 2 said these drops, less than 5% of the time, will slightly deepen the color of your eyes. Now, I want to make this point for you guys. Travitan Z burns the hell out of my eyes. Every single night I put the drops in. No matter if I've been on an airplane and my eyes are already dry, no matter if it's allergy season, I have put those drops in my eyes every single night since I met Dr. Michael Pro. And do you know why? Because the left eye, which had been 21, now when I go back into Will's eye, that eye is 10. The eye that had been 22 or 23, when I go into Will's eye, that eye is 11. And Michael, what I'm going to tell you now is the truth. And I don't want you to pass judgment because Brady, I can tell you're very judgmental. If I smoke a little weed the night before, it's 9 in both eyes, Michael. I got glaucoma. Don't pass judgment, Michael. Do not pass judgment. Okay, guys. I know the outcome. Do I care that my eyes have gotten a little darker? What do you guys think? Yes or no? No. And Michael, how long am I going to put those drops in my eyes? Every day for fill in the blank.
Ever.
Forever. Because the doctor number 2 told me the final outcome. Okay. Thank you. Who else has got one? One more difference between doc 1 and doc 2 before I summarize this stuff up. Come on. Who else has got one? What's
He did a
jumping
lot
out
of
at you?
pre-work before he walked in. When he walked in, he had a folder full of all of his information.
Joseph, this is huge. And I want to say this. I want to pull on this string, Joseph. After telling this story for 5 or 6 years to thousands of CEOs all around the world, I'm going to tell you, I'm 100% convinced, Joseph, that Dr. 1 did the same amount of work to prepare before he came in and saw me as Dr. 2, because they both prescribed what, Joe?
Same drugs.
Same drugs. The difference is this, guys. Doctor number 2 showed his work. And remember, information gets to the brain how much faster? Through the eyes than through the ears? What did we say? You remember, Joseph? What was the number?
30 times.
30 times. Guys, it's not enough to just do the work. You need to show people that you've done the work. He knew he had done the work, but he came in filled with confidence that I didn't see as confidence. I saw as aggressiveness, and I saw him coming in and saying he wanted to do something to me. Doctor number 2 not only did the work and came in with confidence, he showed me the work and said he wanted to do something with me. Guys, there are differences. We can control people's perception of anything we present. I'm going to share with you a concept that's been known since the 1600s. And the concept is called perceptual contrast. And if you guys understand this concept and can share it with your team, you can change the paradigm. You can change how people feel about anything you present to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what the scientist John Locke showed people back in the 1600s as a test. He would show them 3 buckets, and he would fill those 3 buckets with different temperatures of water. Joseph, just give me a thumbs up. Can you see the 3 buckets? Thumbs up? Okay, great. I'm going to give you the definition before I walk you through the exercise. You guys ready? We now call this concept framing. And here's the definition. You can change how someone feels about anything based on what you give them to feel before that thing. You can change how someone feels about anything based on what you give them to feel before that thing. I'll come back to the definition in a second. And Jennifer, you can see my screen okay? Thumbs up. Jennifer, I'm going to fill the middle bucket. I'm going to fill the middle bucket with room temperature water. Hold on, let me grab a pen here. And, or to keep the illusion going, let me say I'm grabbing some water. And I'm going to fill this middle bucket with room temperature water, neither hot nor cold. And Jennifer, the bucket over here on your left, I'm going to fill this bucket with hot water, almost boiling hot water. And the bucket over here on your right, I'm going to fill this bucket with ice water, very, very cold water. Now, Jennifer, I want you to imagine, and I am going to ask you a question in one moment. I'm going to ask you to imagine I take your left hand, I put it in the hot water, and I hold it in there. And then I pull it out and put it in the room temperature water. Jennifer, how would your left hand, which had been soaking in hot water, how does it now feel room temperature water in comparison? As warmer or colder?
Colder.
How about the other hand, which had been soaking in the ice? I'm going to put your right hand in the ice. And at the same time as I put your left hand in the room temperature, I'm going to take your right hand and put it in the room temperature. How does it now feel, the room temperature?
Warmer.
Did the middle bucket change?
No.
What changed?
Your perception of the water.
Folks, this is big. This is so big that Dr. Cialdini, the second major book he wrote, was entirely about this concept. The title of that book is Persuasion. And I've been teaching people to focus on the middle bucket for more than 30 years. What do you want people to feel? Because the importance is not the middle bucket. It's what you give them to feel before that thing, which is going to change their perception of the middle bucket. Let me give you the definition again, and then I'm going to give you an exercise to consider. Here's the definition. You can change how someone feels about anything based on what you give them to feel before that thing. And here's the exercise. 2 questions. The person whose name you wrote down. What do you want them to feel? Describe it, guys. Take a moment. Before you interact with them, what do you want them to feel about you, about your business, about your request? What will you give them to feel before that thing? It's up to you to create the framing. So far, I've actually given you 3 or 4 exercises, although I didn't put them all up on the board to show you as an exercise. I'm going to do that right now in review of a few of the things we've talked about today. So if you guys asked me, what would be the first steps for you to follow to influence or persuade anything? I'd have you start with this exercise. I'd have you write their name down. And I want you to ask, what do you know about them? Do they see you as safe or risky? Because remember, their brain's first goal is to keep them alive. And if you represent change, they're going to see you as danger. If you are different, if what you're asking them to do is different than what they've been doing, you represent change, you represent danger. How can you eliminate their risk? Again, second exercise I gave you was, how can you make your message visual? Take the words you're using, turn them into pictures, icons, graphs, maps. Doesn't have to cost a lot today, guys. Not in the world of 99 Designs and Elance. I'm talking a few bucks for you to put better visuals together. How can you take those graphics and turn them into videos? And most powerful, how can you bring them to the thing itself? These are the dimensions. You've heard 3-dimension, 2-dimension, 1-dimension. Every time you give an element another dimension and make it more visual, it's easier for someone to understand. We're actually in a brave new world, guys. We're in a brave new world with the technology we're using. Because if you want, with the snap of a finger, you know, I can bring you to my home in Florida. That's St. Pete Beach. Okay, that's the view from my desk in Florida. If I want, I can snap my finger and have a hurricane hit. You know, if you want, you guys can do all of this stuff. You know, here's a little secret, guys. I'm not a technology guy. And if I'm able to do some of the stuff you're seeing here on the screen, and there's things that I've been doing during this session to make the session more visual for you guys. Remember, it's all about how human beings use energy. So the most energy consumptive organ in your body is your brain. The brain uses 25% of the body's energy, but it's not in our species' best interest for our brain to always be using energy. So I want to share with you, as one of 2 final thoughts, a pattern for you guys to consider. Here's what we know, by the way. You know what? Let me put this up on the board, put this up on the big board. This is what scientists call the curve of human attention. And it basically says it's not in our species' best interest for our brain to be burning high attention, high energy all the time. So the brain is predictable. It will not be up here. The brain, people will not pay attention to you guys the entire time you and your team are interacting with them. There's actually a curve that people experience, and there are two what are called moments of power on this curve. So Michael, are you a music fan? You a music fan?
Oh yeah.
So, and I know you got 3 daughters. I got a daughter. So a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I told my daughter, Fleetwood Mac is coming to the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. My daughter said, Fleetwood Mac, that's one of Grandpa's favorite bands. I don't want to go with you. I said, oh, that's fine. Michael, on her own, 2 years later, my daughter discovers a singer named Stevie Nicks. Yep. You guys see where I'm going with this? Okay. Now she wants to go. So I get tickets to see Stevie Nicks, right? We're waiting outside the Wells Fargo Center for 2.5 hours. Guys, Stevie Nicks is 70 years old. She comes on stage at the Wells Fargo Center. Michael, what does the whole audience do as soon as Stevie gets on stage? They're on their feet. Guys, this is a moment of power. Are they going to stay on their feet, Michael? Did they stay on their feet the entire time that Stevie sang? Yes or no?
No.
Almost immediately, they started doing what?
Sitting down.
Because they're 70 years old as well, Michael. Stevie's going to sing for 2 hours, guys. Right here is another moment of power. Stevie says this, Philadelphia, I love coming here. You're like my favorite fans in the whole country. And I'm telling you, I didn't think of this as performing in front of an audience. I thought of this as telling stories to my family. Can I tell you one more story? Can I sing you one more song? One more song. Michael, what's the whole audience do?
Right back up.
Guys, you have 2 moments of power. And I want to ask you, are you screwing this up? You have a moment of power here and you have a moment of power here. Dino, we need to get a yes. Huge client, $30 million deal. Okay, show me the PowerPoint slides. 42 PowerPoint slides. I said, okay, what's the most important slide? We can save her $8 million, Dino, in the first 90 days. 8 million in 90 days. Guess what slide that was? And I'm not kidding. Michael, guess what slide that was?
38, 40.
Exactly, right here, when they were sure the audience was what?
Sleeping.
Where should they have shown that slide?
Up front.
I'd show it here. Where else?
At the end.
Yeah, but you know where you and I would show it, Michael? I would share it here, here, here. It would be like a page. You know why, guys? Because it's a pattern interrupt to spark people's attention. I had you guys at the beginning of this session. As soon as I started losing you, I created another moment of power right here, and I sparked you guys back up. Guys, I've used at least a dozen pattern interrupts throughout this session to spark your attention. Who's got an example? Raise your hand. Who's got something you've seen me do to keep people with me? Raise your hand and jump on. Who's got one? Go ahead, Jennifer, what you got?
Well, you kept calling us by name, calling us out, trying to get us to interact with you as you were giving your presentation.
Yes, but I also want you to see what I'm going to do now with Chris Schaller. Chris, I'm going to be asking you a question in a moment. So Jennifer, what have I just done respectfully with Chris?
You just put him on notice that you were going to come and ask him for something.
And Chris has just taken himself off mute. Chris, are you prepared to answer a question now?
Oh, hell no.
So guys, here's the point. I'm not calling them out to embarrass them. I'm calling them out to include them. I want you to be respectful. Call people's name before you actually call on them, so you're not putting them on the spot. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Who else has got something you've seen me do here today? Come on, jump in. Who's got some? Jump in, Andy Tupler.
So a number of times you said, write these 2 things down, or I'm going to give you 3 points. You kind of kept getting us.
Andy, I do that for 3 reasons. First reason, as soon as I do it, I see people take out their pens. And because I want to make a difference, handwriting visually imprints the brain. So I want my audience participating. I want them to take out a pen and a piece of paper. Second thing is when I preface, there's going to be 3 things. They automatically write down what, Andy?
1, 2, 3. You kind of set it up.
Yeah. And if I only give them 2 things, what do they then do?
Wondering where the third one is.
Hey, you forgot, right? Guys, before you get into your meeting, I want you to number your important points. And I want you to think in terms of 2s and 3s. Okay? Who else has got something you've seen or heard me do here on today's session to keep you guys with me?
You're also using visuals. Going back and forth.
I try to the degree I can to have an icon or a picture for something, for everything I'm going to show you. And here's a rule of thumb, guys. And I actually saw this in a book from the 1970s. It was a book for IBM reps on how to make great presentations. And the book said this: when you put a foil down, think of a PowerPoint slide, but they actually had foils that they would put on a projector. Don't put more on that foil than you would be able to read on a billboard next to the freeway doing 70 miles an hour. Keep your visuals simple, especially if you guys are using Zoom, etc. What else? What else have you guys seen me do here in this session as an application of the brain science and creating pattern interrupts? So guys, there's at least 20 things that I did. You guys have come up with a handful so far. Who else has got something? Go ahead, Paul Eisenberg, what you got?
When you shared your journey with your eyes, it drew me in, it reignited me, it reconnected me to you.
Personal stories are pattern interrupts. The more personal the story, the bigger the interrupt. Michael Brady, what you got?
So you use your body language during these. You get closer to the screen when you're about to give us a tidbit that's really important, and then you kind of back off a little bit when you're going back to kind of your base. And then you use your hands as if you were Italian all the time. And,
as if I was Italian. Yeah, because Dino Minuto is the most Irish name you've ever heard, right?
So that's what I noticed.
Yeah, and I got a new boom microphone right here that that I've hit by accident twice today because I haven't used it before. All right, so my question to you guys is, what is the biggest impact and easiest thing I've shared with you today? I'm going to give you a little tool to consider using. I call this the brain's GPS. And stay on with me, Michael. The brain's first goal is what? What's everyone's first goal, Michael?
Staying alive.
I want you to write the word gain or put a $sign. And what's the brain's second goal, Michael?
The least amount of work to accomplish the first goal.
I want you to write pain. And over here, I want you to write easy and put a smiley face. Ladies and gentlemen, easy and less risky always wins. We now have 4 boxes. I don't even have to number 2 and 3. All I want to number is box number 1 and box number 4. I want you to ask yourself, with every person you're dealing with, what can I do to have them see me? This is the brain's GPS. G for gain, P for pain. You want people to say yes to you? You want to be as close to this as you can. You want to be high gain and easy. It's the reason that Jeff Bezos is the second richest guy on the planet. And as soon as Vladimir Putin dies, Jeff is going to be the richest guy on the planet. Okay? Everything Jeff Bezos does is quadrant 1. I want you to understand this. This is also a way for you to look at your customers. It's not only a way for your customers to look at you, it's a way for you guys to do critical account planning. Every single one of you has a customer that you love. That's quadrant 1. You got a customer whose name we could write here. Joseph, you got one. Who's a quadrant 1 customer? Who's high gain for you and easy for you and your team to work with? Give me a name.
P. Petrini.
What?
Petrini, Pietrini.
Let me just put this right here. I want to ask you, can you tell me what are the 3 things that make them high gain? You don't have to tell me right now. And what are the 3 things that make them easy to work with? And here's why I'm going to ask you guys to all consider this, because I'm going to assume that you guys also have some quadrant 4 customers. Joseph, do you have someone that's low gain and is hard for your team to work with? You don't have to name an actual name, just nod your head, yes or no.
Not anymore.
Good
They're
for
open
you.
fire.
Good for you. Well, that's one option. That's definitely an option, is to fire them. And my assistant, Sarah, actually keeps a list. It's called the no Dino privileges list. Those are people who have either been disrespectful to me or Sarah or whatever, and I will never be available for them. But Joseph, I just want to say this to you. Before I fire them, as you said, I want to try to do 2 other things first. Michael, what do you think? What's one thing I want to try to do with someone who has self-selected themselves as being painful to me and as not being focused on my gain? What's the first thing I want to try to do with them?
Move them to a different quadrant.
Absolutely. Can I somehow encourage them to be easier? Or can I somehow encourage them to think about me as well? And if I can't, they're gone. They're gone. Guys, you need to be thinking about this. Your time is precious. We're here to make a difference. That's what we're here to do. To the degree you can spend time in quadrant 1, making a big difference for customers, with quadrant 1 customers for you, you will be able to make more of a difference in this world, right? The quote that's on the back cover of my first book says, life is not about making a commission. Sales is not about making a commission. Sales is about making a difference. So I'm going to ask you guys, take a moment. What is a quadrant 1 item that you took from today's session? Write it down right now. Take a moment, take a look through your notes. What is something that would be high gain for you and your team to consider that I shared with you today? And what would be something that would be easy for you to implement? Anyone got something they're willing to share with me? Because my goal is you guys take things of value. Who's got something? Go ahead, Jeff. Chav, what you got, man?
Chavkin.
Chavkin. Thank you,
2
brother.
things. One, I was thinking, in my early days, I always gave them a pad and pen when I met with them, and I stopped doing that. So I'm going to start doing that again so they can write down whatever they want to write down. Plus, it's got our name on it. And the second one is that when I'm showing them our proposal, it does have a lot of information. So maybe I'm going to break that down into smaller pieces that they can easier digest.
Happens to all of us, Jeff. Over time, we all have had best practices that we used to use that we got away from. And over time, we all have allowed our presentations to get too big, right? Let me put this slide up on the board just as a takeaway here. Can you all see the statue on the board? So this is my favorite visual. I end every presentation with CEO groups with this, and we're about a minute before closing here. The statue, the artist has become a friend of mine. Her name is Bobby Carlisle. I first saw the statue 32 years ago in a magazine. It's called Self-Made Man. Bobby made an image of a person carving themselves out of granite. Pretty cool, right, Michael? I found her in Denver. I was like 21 years old. I said, Bobby, my name's Dino. You don't know me from Adam, but that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. She said, Dino, that one's 9 feet tall. You can buy it for $87,000. I said, it's not that cool, Bobby. It's just not that cool. I bought a poster from her, which was all I could afford. And over time, we became friends. I bought a small version of this for my dad, eventually a larger one. Guys, every religion, whether you're spiritual, religious, whether you're not, every ancient book of wisdom says these 2 things in it. You ready? Number 1, they themselves are makers of themselves. Number 2, those who have faith, those who believe in what they're doing, even more shall be given. I see everyone on this call as high performance. You're like this individual. You're looking to carve what you want for your family, for your customers. You're doing the hard work. I view myself as an instrument, as a hammer to help you guys do that. And the math works like this, guys. You improve 1% a day, and in 70 days, you're twice as good. So what are the activities? What are the behaviors that can lead to that 2x outcome? What you and your team does makes a difference. It matters. So I said it was my goal to contribute. I hope you guys feel I did. We all good? People good? Ready to get on with the day? Yes? All right. All right. You know, this is weird. This is weird. Take yourselves off mute. Let me hear some applause or else I go up to my bedroom and I weep. All right. Thank you. That's good enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Guys,
Tina. This was
my
awesome.
pleasure. If I can be of service, any one of you reach out. Nice to meet you, Michael. Talk
You
to you
too.
guys soon.
Thank you.
Everybody enjoy your day. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
Dino,
QR
Dino.
code back up for us.
Oh, barcode back up. Yes, I can. Hold on
Thank
one
you.
second. Hold on, barcode. You know what? Just send, hold on. Send your notes to me and I'll complete the barcode. No, I'm joking. Hold on. Let me put it up here. Thank you very much for reminding me. There we go. Can you all see it?
Yes, so everyone just take your phone, take a picture. It'll be a quick link.
I'll edit the front of the recording so that the session is there. And Michael, if you want to send me an email, so I got your email address, Mohit, and I'll also make sure that Katie gets a link to that video as well.
Wonderful.
Hey,
great.
Dino,